All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. We're going to continue from last week's class, talking about what the earth is not. Just really quick, we're coming from, this is Brother Yashaiyah.
This is Brother Mayaka Allah.
And we're coming from the House of David, 191 Howard Avenue. You can hit us up if you would like to donate on the Cash App. That's $, H.O.D.C, Camp NY. The water for anything that you send. So before we go into the verses on what the earth is not, we'll go to Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13. You there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll be reading my mind, bro. We know when you're ready. You're good?
Good.
Okay. Let me know what you got. Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13.
This is the book of Proverbs chapter 18 verse 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him.
So the reason I'm bringing that verse out is because when you start to talk about the earth, when you start to talk about geometry and the origins of the beginning, a lot of people get upset. They actually write it off before you even begin to say anything. So this is why we're reading that verse. That he that answereth a matter before he heareth it, to him it is folly. So if you're already talking about, we can't hear it, we can't deal with that, that's folly. You're supposed to hear the matter first. We talk about everything and anything under the sun when it comes to the scriptures, but for some reason a lot of people can't deal with anything dealing with the earth or geometry. And actually what you're saying is you can't accept someone questioning what Esau taught you from the beginning because it's not in the Bible.
All right.
So let's go to James 1 and 19. Please turn your phones off or put it on vibrate.
Appreciate it.
Okay, take your time. Okay, when you got it.
This is the book of James chapter 1 verse 19.
Hold it. Okay, good.
This is the book of James chapter 1 verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
So that's it right there. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. So you want to hear what's happening. You want to listen to what's going on before you start to build up this anger. Because what's happening when you talk about certain subjects, there's already an anger there before the subject is even brought out, which is a folly, which is why we read Proverbs 18 and 13. So with that said, we're going to go into this. So the first word that you can write down, so you have this definition, we're going to deal with is the word breadth. B-R-E-A-D-T-H, breadth. B-R-E-A-D-T-H, breadth. Right? And the Hebrew word for breadth is Rachab. That's R-A-K-H-A-B. Rachab. R-A-K-H-A-B. It's one word, but it'll help you pronounce it if you put the space in it. The number for that word is H7337. That's how you find it in the concordance. H7337. So if you went online and typed in concordance or Blue Letter Bible and you put H7337, the word Rachab will come up. So it's a unit of measure, right? It's when you're dealing with geometry, breadth is the equivalent to width. Length times width, breadth, or area when you're dealing with geometry. In geometry, you're dealing with shapes, surfaces, and lines meeting at a certain point, right? As far as things are circles and things of that nature, right? So what we want to try to find out is why is the word breadth used when determining the earth and not circumference or not radius or these things that deal more so with a sphere versus a circle, right? So I'm just going to read you something really quick. Brought this note here. Okay. So I want you to notice this really quick and pay attention and listen to what it said, right? This is from, ironically, the site is called Tutor Circles, a bunch of tutors that teach people about math and other things. And it says how to measure the diameter of a ball. The reason I looked up how to measure the diameter of a ball is because if you put sphere, it automatically goes to space, and then NASA gets involved. So if you put ball, you're gonna get that actual measurement, because once you start dealing with sphere, all of a sudden all this science comes out and the history of the Greeks, so you put ball because it's the same shape. So how to measure the diameter of a ball. In order to calculate the diameter of a ball, use a tape measure to measure the circumference of your ball. To measure the circumference of your ball, wrap your tape measure around your ball once. You don't need to remember this, but I'm reading it to you to set a precedent. Once you've written down the number of your ball circumference, divide the number which you have by pi, right? 3.14. If it's been a few years since you graduated from school, pi equals 3.14. Once you divided your circumference by 314, you successfully calculated the diameter of your ball. So now we'll go to the other side. Notice it's different. How to measure the diameter of a circle. So a ball and circle is not the same thing. A ball contains numerous circles in it, but it's not a circle, it's a ball. So, okay, it says to accurately find out the diameter of a circle, first figure out the radius of your circle. The radius of a circle is the distance between the center point of your circle and the outside of your circle. Once you found the radius of your circle, multiply the number which you have by 2, and then multiply the number which you get with pi, which is 3.14. If you're curious as to why, it's a better idea to calculate the diameter of a circle first by finding the radius of your circle instead of your circle's circumference. The answer is that you should find it a lot easier to accurately measure your circle's radius with a ruler and try to measure the circumference of your circle. So what it's saying is you're using these straight objects to measure a circle. Use a tape measure, and you have to go around to measure a ball. So it's showing a circle is measured completely different than a sphere. So now we're going to go into the word breadth. Let me just pull it out for you real quick. So breadth, right? So breadth is the distance or measurement from side to side of something. This is the same thing we said with a circle, from a point to the other side, from side to side. Wide range or extent. That's what you use for breadth. So it's the same as finding the area of something. You can find the area of a square. You can find the area of numerous shapes, but you cannot do that with a ball. That does not make mathematical sense whatsoever, right? So now, let's go to the scripture, right? So let's go to Job 38 and 18. Okay, good. Job chapter 38 and 13. That's right around Psalms. 38 and 18. Yep. All right, go ahead.
This is the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 18. Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth?
Read that again.
Have thou perceived the breadth of the earth?
So the breadth is a distance of measurement from side to side. So hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Why didn't he say the circumference of the earth? The breadth of the earth, go ahead.
Declare if thou knowest it all.
Declare if you know it all, right? Let's go to real quick, go to Genesis. Let's establish what the earth is. Chapter 1, what verse do I want? Go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 10. This is we're establishing what the earth is exactly, because it's specific.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 10.
Actually start at 9.
Verse 9. And the Most High said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together onto one place.
So notice he said, let the waters under heaven, because remember we established the firmament is the beginning of where heaven is, right? So let the waters under the heaven, so now it's down here, be gathered together into one place. Go ahead.
And let the dry land appear.
So now let the dry land appear, because it's all water. This is why he said the Spirit of the Lord moved upon the surface of the deep, right? So now let the dry land appear. Go ahead.
And it was so.
Go ahead.
Verse 10. And the Most High called the dry land earth.
No, the entire planet.
And the Most High called the dry land earth.
So the dry land is earth, right? So now we understand why we're using breadth, because we're measuring the land of the earth, right? And go ahead.
And the gathering together of the waters called he sea.
And he called the waters sea. So notice the earth and seas technically are two different things, right? Go ahead.
And the Most High saw that it was good.
And the Most High saw that it was good. So the dry land is earth, right? Okay, so let's continue with what we were doing. Let's go to Job 36 and 16.
Phones on vibrate, please.
Yep, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
This is the book of Job, chapter 36, verse 16. Even so would he have removed thee out of the strait into a broad place.
So notice the word straight here is not straight with GHT. It's not going in a straight place. Straight means narrow in this word. S-T-R-A-I-T means narrow, right? From out of the straight place into a broad place, right? Go ahead.
Where there is no straightness.
Where there is no straightness, right?
And that which should be set on thy table should be full of fatness.
Now, the reason I brought that verse out is because I want you to pay attention when he uses certain words. When he uses straight and when he uses broad. So the straight here is always referring to narrow. That's why I say the straight and narrow. It's not always straight. The straight and narrow is essentially the same word, right? Okay, let's go to Job 37 and 10. We're going to stay in Job for a bit, so you should be good.
This is the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 10.
Go ahead.
By the breath of the Most High, frost is given.
Right?
And the breath of the water.
Read that again.
And the breath of the water.
And the breadth of the waters, how side to side, how wide the waters expand. Go ahead.
Is straightening.
And the waters are straightened. So now he's talking about freezing the waters. So now those waters that are extremely wide are now straightened because they narrow. They're not as wide as they were before. When it freezes, it contracts, right? So now he's talking about breadth also with water. At no point was circumference mentioned. There's no point of a curve being mentioned, right? So we're dealing with breadth and the waters. The waters were straightened. Let's go to Genesis chapter 13 and verse 17.
Everybody have it? Okay. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 14, verse
13 and 17.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 13, verse 17. Arise, walk through the land in the breadth of it.
Right, read that again. You missed it.
So I can.
Yeah.
Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it. For I will give it unto thee.
So the Most High, right, is the author of mathematics, is the author of science. He deals with straights, he deals with curves, he deals with all of these things. But when he talks about the earth, he says, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it. So notice, we're dealing with length and breadth, and those always go together, just like area, right? So now let's go to Isaiah 40 and 22. Has anybody seen the word circumference yet? No, right? We're dealing with the earth and we have length and breadth. We're dealing with the sea and we have breadth or area, right? Isaiah 40 and 22. And the purpose of this is to refute Esau, Because if we say we believe in the scriptures, then we go by what the scripture says. If the Most High and Yahweh says this is the way the earth is made, that's the way it's made. Esau may learn of things, but he's going to learn of it based on what the Most High said. And then give you his own numbers to make you perceive that he's God. Oh, this is the measurement. It's this way. And everything he says is contrary to the Bible. It says breadth and length. He says curvature. Right? Go ahead. Isaiah 40 and 22.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 22.
So pay attention to this. This is where the seed is. Go ahead.
It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth.
It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. So remember, we said circle and sphere are two different things. He sitteth upon the circle of the earth. So he's looking down on a circle. You have breadth and you have length in a circle. You do not have that in a sphere. If you think about the shape of the earth, it doesn't make sense for anyone to be above that and you're looking down on all the continents. It doesn't sit right. The sun out here and the moon down here, there's no way you're seeing all of that. What's going to happen is as you start to read and you start to understand what he's actually saying, the shape is going to change. And when the shape changes, other verses that didn't make sense before will now make sense. You won't have to use your imagination to fill in the lines of how the Most High is going to do something when he told you what the place looks like. Go ahead.
And the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers.
So he's sitting far above where we are. Go ahead.
That stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain.
So notice he stretches out the heavens as a curtain, which opens wide, open to the side, right? And when we went over the word firmament, which is rakia, or arc, it has that shape. Because even if you look at tents also have either a cone shape or a dome shape. When you open curtains, it makes that shape when you open it, right? So it says that stretches out the heavens as a curtain. Go ahead.
And spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in.
So it's showing your covering that you have. It spreadeth it out as a tent to dwell in, right? So that can also be a dome shape. Tents are also domes. As you go further in this, you start to see how tabernacles and everything else plays out based on how he made this earth, right? So let's go to Zechariah 2 and 2. So again, so our purpose is to deflate Esau's ball. Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 2. Yeah, go ahead. You need more time or you're good? If you need a second, go ahead.
Right after Haggai. All right, this is Zechariah chapter 2, verse 2.
Go ahead.
Then say I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem.
To measure Jerusalem, go ahead.
To see what is the breadth thereof.
To see what is the breadth thereof, because we're dealing with the earth. Go ahead.
And what is the length thereof?
And what is the length thereof? He sitteth upon the circle of the earth. So the circle of the earth is measured by breadth and length. He's measuring Jerusalem. Breadth and length. Mathematically sound, no matter how you take that, right? So now let's go into a different shape. Let's go more so into the shapes, right? So we're going to deal with compass. We're going to deal with circuit and a circle. Right? So all three of those is one word in Hebrew. And the word is hug, or spelled H-U-G like hug. That's how you find it, but it's pronounced hug. Right? H-U-G. All right? And the number for that word, if you look it up in Strong's, is H2329. 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 So that word inhabits compass, circuit, and circle. Hug. That's the word. There's three occurrences specifically with that word. Hug. H-U-G. It's better to spell it K-H-U-G so you get the idea how that sounds. Right? So let's go to Job chapter 22 and verse 14.
Everybody have it? This is the book of Job, chapter 22, verse 14.
Go ahead.
Thick clouds are a covering to him.
So now he's saying thick clouds are a covering to him. So we know we're dealing with, as we say, higher up in the atmosphere. We're dealing with the firmament. We're dealing with what goes on above. Because thick clouds are covering, meaning it's covering what's above. Go ahead.
That he seeth not.
Right? That he seeth not. So man can't look up there and see. Go ahead.
And he walketh in the circuit of heaven.
And he walks in the circuit of heaven. Anyone dealing with wires, you know the circuit is circular. Right? It's a round circle. So he walks the circuit of heaven. He sits upon the circle of earth. Remember last time we went into the verse where we talked about the north, and in between is nothingness, right? So now you look, he's sitting upon a circle, because if there's nothing there, what shape is it going to have beneath that, right? Because if there was a sphere, it would fill up the entire space. There's no secondary circle above that circle that he's sitting on. He's sitting above the circle. He walks the circuit of heaven. Go ahead. But that was it on that one, right? Salak. Isaiah 44 and 13. We went over this one last week, but this is going to show how things are. In the conversation, he's talking about the Israelites and how they measure things, but I want to bring this to a point to see how things are done. Isaiah 44 and 13.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 44, verse 13. The carpenter stretches out his rule. He marketh it out with a line.
So you see how things were measured back then, right? Stretches out his rule, and he marketh it out with a line. Go ahead.
He fitteth it with plains.
Plains. Plains are leveled fields. Go ahead.
And he marketh it out with a compass.
A compass is circular, right? When you use a compass, right? How come they don't make a compass a ball if you're walking a ball? The compass is circular so that when you hold it, you're actually looking down on the direction that you're supposed to on the earth. It's a reflection of the earth that you're looking at, and you know which way to go, north, south, east, or west. The compass, go ahead. And when you use that in math, right, in school, they use what to make circles? A compass. Right, go ahead.
And maketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man,
right?
That it may remain in the house.
So when you also deal with the earth, right, it's made after the beauty of a man, right? So what are we saying? So a man's face, right? The top of his head is like a sphere, but his face is flat and has peaks and valleys, and he make it after the beauty of a man, right? Go ahead. According to the beauty of a man. So you see how the face is. So when you travel over the surface of the earth, he's telling you which direction he's looking at it, right? Surface. The words are related to each other. Face. Go ahead. Let's go to Proverbs 8 and 27. Because we'll go into the definition of those words as well, just to show you the words are there for a reason. And then sometimes that's when we want to go back over verses and read slow because we might overlook something. What did I say? Proverbs 8 and 27? 8 and verse 27.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 27.
Go ahead. And remember, the word is H.O.D.C. So we're dealing with compass, circuit, and circle. Go ahead.
When he prepared the heavens,
right,
I was there.
Right. So who would be there with the Most High to prepare the heavens? Yahweh, right? Go ahead.
When he set a compass upon the face of the deep, of the depth.
He set a what?
When he set a compass upon the face of the depth.
So a compass upon the face of the depth. So how do we use the compass? Flat. Upon the face of the depth. So you're seeing how we're seeing earth leveled in front of us. From above looking down. Circular. You are not looking at a globe that way. It is impossible. And then what they try to use is tricks. Well, you know, the earth is so big that you can't perceive the curvature. So how did you find it? Right? And when we deal with the horizon, right, no matter how high you go, the horizon stays in your line of sight. So no matter how many planes or balloons you went up in, you saw the horizon the exact same way, no matter how high you went, because there's no curve dipping off. It's circular. If you pay attention, right, and you're out in the plains and in the fields, right, we got to use our perception. We got to use what we actually see. Esau teaches you not to use your eyes. I'm good, the water. Not to use your eyes. Don't believe what you see, right? When you look out in a plane, right, when we think about the sky, we think of the sky above us, correct? If you pay attention out in the plane, the sky is in front of you also. The clouds are in front of you because it's coming down in that arc that he said was there, that firmament. This is why we see the stars at the same time all the time. The stars are underneath or inside the firmament. There's no way you're spinning 1,000 miles this way and hurling 67,000 miles and the same stars appear year to year. It's impossible because he set them in motion. He set the luminaries for it, right? So we're dealing with this compass. We're looking down upon the face of the depth. Okay, so let's go to, what I stopped at, 8 and 27?
Yeah, you start with it.
Slot, let me go back to my notes. All right, so we dealt with that. So we dealt with compass, circuit, and circle. So now we're gonna go to dome or firmament, right? So the word here is ha. H-A-H, ha. H-A-H, like ha, is not a globe. Dome. And the number for that is H1916. And we're going to go back to Job because he told Job a lot. He told Job a lot about how this planet is. And Job questioned and got answers he probably wasn't looking for. Right? Job chapter 37 and verse 18.
This is the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 18.
So with this verse, we're going to look at the reality of a firmament. What is the firmament made out of? Right? Job 37 and verse 18.
Hast thou with him spread out the sky,
So he's asking, have you with him spread out the sky? Go ahead.
which is strong?
So notice he said, hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong. Why would the sky be strong? Why does the sky need to be strong? Go ahead.
And as a molten looking glass?
So the sky is strong and is described as a molten looking glass. So that means there's a hard shell that's like glass that he's looking through into the earth. That's why I said last week, you're actually inside a snow globe. And that's why they have in the missions Operation Fishbowl. Because the United States set off approximately 55 nuclear weapons into the sky. What are you shooting at into the sky? All of them blew up within the Earth's atmosphere. You're trying, because the point of those was to crack the dome or the fishbowl. Why do you need to crack it? Because you can't get out of it. You need to crack it because you're trying to go to where the Most High is. That's why they get you involved with space. That's why they want you to be wowed by all the planets and things they told you about, so you also have that desire to want to leave. Right? Because remember, he said what? The earth is going to be inherited by who? The meek. Right? You are inheriting this earth. Esau wants your mind on leaving this earth. Anything the Most High says, it's the opposite. The Most High is telling you, you're inheriting this. I'm going to give you all this land. This is going to be yours. He's telling you, well, let's think about space and go somewhere else. And if he can get you to think like him, he can get you out of the scripture. That's the whole point, to get you wondering about things he told you about, that he has yet to prove anything that he said he saw. Even by the pictures, they're pics. If you look it up, it says they're gifts and they're pics. So, all right, so let's go back to that. Read that verse again.
This is the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 18 again. Hast thou with him spread out the sky,
Right?
which is strong,
So the sky is strong.
and as a molten looking glass?
So the sky is as a molten looking glass. So you use looking glasses to look through. So he's looking through it. So let's prove that further. Let's go to Revelation chapter 4 and verse 6. So we're getting descriptions on what the Most High sees. We got the compass, walks in a circuit of heaven, walks upon he sees the circle of the earth. Go ahead.
This is the book of Revelation chapter 4 verse 6.
Go ahead.
And before the throne.
Before the throne. Before the throne, right? Because the Most High sits above the firmament, correct? So before the throne, in front of the throne, go ahead.
There was a sea of glass like unto crystal.
So there's a sea like glass unto crystal. So again, we said the sky is strung like a molten looking glass. And here it's saying this glass like unto crystal, a whole sea of it. Go ahead.
And in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and him, before and behind.
Right. So the point of that verse was, at the throne, he's looking down on a sea of glass unto crystal, right? And then now we also got the description of molten looking glass. So let's follow that up with Revelations 15 and 2. Okay.
This is the book of Revelation chapter 15 verse 2.
Go ahead.
And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire.
So a sea of glass mingled with fire. We just went over molten glass. And a sea of glass unto crystal. So again, glass mingled with fire is molten glass. Go ahead.
And them that had gotten the victory over the beast.
We're just going to read this just because. Go ahead.
And over the number of his name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Salaka.
Go ahead. And over his image.
No. And over his image, and
right.
over his mark,
mm-hmm.
and over the number of his name,
right?
Stand on the sea of glass.
So at some point we're going to be standing on that sea of glass. Go ahead.
Having the heart of the Most High.
So if we overcome, we're going to be able to see this very earth that we're talking about now. When we don't take his mark, or his image, or his likeness, or the number of his name. And that's what we're dealing with right now with this whole COVID thing. Because we're already dealing with his image and everything else, so now he's trying to give us his mark. Also, part of his mark is getting us to worship on the wrong days. Part of his mark is getting us not to keep the holy days. That's part of his mark because you're starting to identify with your adversary, right? So we're not going to stick on that too long because that's not the subject, but that's a good one to go into.
Right.
Ezekiel 1 and 22.
Shai, let me say something real quick.
Come on.
In verse 2, as you watching the destruction, you watching the destruction above it,
Come on.
the earth is burning up right now.
Come on. So that's going to be a good day to look forward to.
Yeah.
Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 22. Do we want to start at 22? Let's put up against this. Okay. Yeah, 1 and 22.
This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 22.
Go ahead.
And the likeness of the firmaments upon the heads of the living creatures.
So the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creatures. So these are these angelic beings or like chariots that are residing above the atmosphere. So notice is the likeness of the firmament upon the head. So this is how high up they are. They are just below that throne. Go ahead.
Was as the color of a terrible crystal.
So notice the firmament upon the heads of the living creatures was the color of a terrible crystal. So it's identified with glass and crystal. Operation Fishbowl. Right? So you're getting an idea of what we're inside. Crystal and glass. I forget the scientist's name that flew a balloon. Anybody? That sound familiar to anybody? He flew a balloon out. And was it Admiral Byrd? It might have been. He went to Antarctica, I believe. But he said he reached the end and he said it looked like nothing but crystal at the ends of the earth. So this is the reason planes have a certain trajectory. This is the reason you can't go but so far. This is the reason we don't want you going this way. We don't want you going that way. They have to stop you because if you see this, you're going to start to figure out they lied. And what happens when all your external things are taken away, you focus inside. You're going to start to turn inside and start to think, well, if this is not true, then what about this? And as we read this and start to reveal how the Most High has shown the earth, what's dangerous to them is these people may very well start to match what they see with this book and take a non-believer into a believer just based on how the earth is. So this is why I think it's important to even deal with the subject, because this is another way to fish for men. Because a lot of men love science, they love math, they love geometry. Why not show them that all of this is in the book?
Right.
Right? Go ahead, read that again. Go to 23 actually.
23.
Nah, read 22 again. Yeah.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse 22.
Right?
And the likeness of the firmaments upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of the terrible crystal, stretched forth over their heads above.
So when you get a chance and you go home, look up, I believe they call it sprites, is what they call certain spirits. You'll see these luminaries or these balls all the way above the clouds, but they don't go past that. So when you read this verse, and this is the likeness upon the firmament of the living creatures, it was above their heads. Those are those lights they're showing, right? Because when we see chariots, we see light balls of light. They reside right below the firmament, right? So let's go to Isaiah 66 and 1. So now we're going to start dealing with the throne and what the earth is like to the Most High again. And remember, and I would be, trust me, I would be absolutely fine if someone would say, you know what, nah, I've been researching and it really is a ball. If you show me in the scripture that it's a ball, I'm okay with that. Prove me wrong through the scripture. I don't care what Esau says. I don't care what his science says. If it's not in this book, I don't believe it. Especially coming from Esau. I don't believe it. And I would challenge anyone that said, here's the problem. If someone tells you, nah, you shouldn't be talking about this or whatever the case is, ask them why you so angry about it. That's the first question you got to ask. What makes you angry dealing with that subject? Because your anger is coming from a challenge, and the challenge is actually coming from the Bible. And it's challenging what Esau taught you as a child. So you have to wonder about that, right? Because we're open to anything. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Yeah. But yet I have yet to find anything wrong with what's being taught so far. Right? We're reading it as thus saith the Lord, not thus saith Esau. Right? So Isaiah 66 and 1.
This is the book of Isaiah chapter 66 verse 1. Thus saith the Most High.
There you go right there. Thus saith the Most High.
The heaven is my throne.
The heaven is my throne, right?
And the earth is my footstool.
Has anyone seen a footstool before? What does it look like? It's flattened, isn't it? It can be a square or a circle. You can measure a square or circle by breadth and length. The earth is my footstool. He sitteth upon the circle of the earth. He walks the circuit of heaven. He is keeping the same shapes in every description. The earth is my foot. You really think he's going to squeeze both of his feet together on a ball and just sit there like it's a Baosu ball and he's a medicine ball? No, that doesn't make sense. The earth is my footstool. Go ahead.
Where is the house that ye built unto me?
Go ahead.
And where is the place of my rest?
Okay, so now we're going to go to 1 Chronicles 28. And 1 Chronicles chapter 28, and we're going to go with verse 2. Give them time to catch up there. You're with me so far? Is it too complex? Do you need me to repeat anything? Okay, cool. Oh, it's a slight. I'm going to take a little slight, a little jab. I'm going to just throw it out into the air. One point I remember, I watched the video. And it's not what prompted me to do it, but it's what pushed me, 1 Chronicles 28 and 2. What pushed me to want to do it. Wife pushed me to want to do it because she mentioned it. And the spirit was in there and I had to wait. till the Most High said it was okay. But I remember somebody said, "This guy, what do you want?"
You know what I want.
I don't know what you want.
So what? At the end of the day, what you trying to say? That the earth is...
The earth is not as Esau described it.
That's not what I'm asking you. But what you trying to say? The earth is what?
What do you mean? The earth is circular.
What the world uses flat or round. So what you trying to... What's your point in that?
My point
Yeah.
is that it's a plane. It's a plane. A plane goes straight out. Plane goes straight out in a circular formation. Just like I'll get you a picture of the Hebrew earth. And mind you, it's a picture, a description of the Hebrew earth. Not the picture of what the Greeks said of the Hebrew earth. With an arc over it and the earth in a circle formation below it. So by look, it looks like it's a globe, but the actual earth is down below the firmament. So it's circular. Just like a snow globe. That's what I'm saying the earth is like, a snow globe. You find out you saw some of his soldiers. All right, First Chronicles chapter 28 and verse 2. Go ahead.
Before a word hopped in, what you gonna say? You gonna bring out a point. You said you're gonna jab.
Oh, it was a jab. Okay. So because at a certain place they said, listen, it's not going to be discussed, and yelled at people in the class asking those questions. And they said, this is it. This is the final. We broke it down. This is the nail in the coffin on this subject. So I'm calling it the resurrection. Because you nailed the coffin, but it's coming back up. You did not nail that coffin tight enough.
This is the book of First Chronicles chapter 28 verse 2.
Go ahead.
Then David the king stood upon his feet and said, "Hear me, my brethren, and my people. As for me, I had in my heart to build an house of rest for the ark of the covenant of the Most High,
Right.
and for the footstool of our power, and had made ready for the building."
So notice the use of the words, the ark of the covenant, and for the footstool of our power. Notice the same words. He uses the same word. He precepts himself. The ark of the covenant and the footstool of our power, right? Okay, so now we're going to end that subject. So do we know what a footstool looks like? We know what a circle looks like. We know what a sphere looks like. A circle and sphere is different. A sphere contains circles, but it is not a circle. Okay, so let's deal with the luminaries now. Let's deal with the stars and the planets and things of that nature. Just the one from my brother back there.
Oh, don't start, bro.
All right, let's go to Joshua chapter 10 and verse 12 to 14. We're going to deal with luminaries. This portion of the class I wrote specifically for my brother. Love my brother, but he may hate me after this. Okay, so let me know when you got it.
I got it.
You're good? You need more time to get there? Joshua chapter 10 and verse 12.
Joshua is after Deuteronomy, if anybody.
You can, when you get it, you can go ahead.
This is the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verse 12. Then spake Joshua to the Most High in the day when the Most High delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel.
Right.
And he said in the sight of Israel, "Son, stand thou still
What did he
upon
tell his son to
Gideon."
do?
Son, stand thou still upon Gideon.
What does Esau say about the sun? Does the sun move or not? He says the sun does not move. The earth revolves around it, and the universe revolves around it.
Right.
What did Joshua just ask?
Son, stand still.
So he
upon
told the
Gideon.
sun to stand still. In order for the sun to stand still, it has to have moved. Go ahead.
And thou, moon, in the valley of Javelin. Verse 13.
Go ahead.
And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies.
So notice the sun and the moon were ordered to stand still until the children of Israel avenged themselves upon their enemies. So that's by the command of the Most High. So Joshua was a righteous man that he asked that question, and the Most High stopped the sun and the moon. Go ahead.
Is not this written in the book of Yashaiyah?
Is not this written where?
In the book of Yashaiyah.
That's a strange name. So now we're going to read a precept. We're not going to go into the whole book, just one specific precept, because I know how that goes with some folks. Right? So I'm going to read it. This is the book of Yashaiyah, chapter 88, verses 63 to 65. I'm sure you're not going to be able to go to it, so I'm going to read it. So it's the book of Yashaiyah, chapter 63 to 65. And it says, when they were smiting the day, declining toward the evening, Yeshua, which is Joshua also, said in the sight of all the people, Sun, stand you still upon Givon, or Gideon. What is it, Gideon in there?
Givon.
Givon. And you moon in the valley of Alyan, until the nation shall have revenged itself upon its enemies. And Yahweh hearkened to the voice of Yeshua, and the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens. And it stood still 36 moments. And the moon stood still, and hastened not to go down a whole day. And there was no day like that, before it or after it, that Yahweh hearkened to the voice of a man. For Yahweh fought for Israel. So now, this is from the book of Yashaiyah. Is this precept now wrong because it's not in there? I'm just throwing another shot out. Right? So we only took that one portion. So if that whole book is wrong, that one portion is correct. We're going to leave it at that. Okay, now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter. What happened? You got something? Oh, 14. Go ahead. Salah. Verse 14 to make sure we get that.
In the middle of the 13th verse. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day.
Right.
Verse 14. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Most High hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Most High fought for Israel.
Sounds the same, right? That's an outside precept. All right, so now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 5. That should have been like, the following does not represent the house of David or anyone else. Just brother Yashaiyah. I'm joking. All right, Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 5. Did I skip something before? I might have. We'll go back. Go ahead.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 5.
You need more time or you're good? You there? Okay, go ahead.
The sun also arises.
The sun does what?
Also arises.
We do say sunrise and sunset, don't we? If we truly believe that the sun doesn't move, why do we say sunrise and sunset?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Why do we wait for the sun to set to do the Shabbat when it doesn't move? Should we call it earth rise, earth go down? All right. So the sun also arises. Go ahead.
And the sun goeth down.
I believe that. The sun also arises and the sun goeth down. Go ahead.
And hasteth to his place where he arose.
And hastens to the place where he arose. Okay.
Right.
Let's go to Sirach in the Apocrypha. Ecclesiasticus, the Greek version, chapter 43 and verse 1 through 5. So we're going to Sirach or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha. (43), and we're going to start at verse 1. And we're going up to verse 5. So Ecclesiasticus 43, verses 1 to 5. Actually, well, honestly, this whole chapter we could read,
Yeah.
but we try to keep it short for
All
time's
right.
sake.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 43, verse 1. The pride of the height, declare firmament.
Declare what?
Declare firmaments.
Firmament. So even the word itself, firmament, firm, hard, terrible glass, molten glass, crystal, rakiah, visible ark, hardened. Go ahead.
The beauty of heaven with his glorious show. Verse 2. The sun when it appeareth, declaring at his rising.
Declaring at his rising.
A marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High. Verse 3. At noon it perisheth the country, and who can abide the burning heat thereof? Verse 4. A man bloweth a furnace, is in work of heat, but the sun burneth the mountains 3 times more, breathing out fiery vapors and sending forth bright beams. It dimmeth the eyes.
Right.
Verse 5. The great is the Most High that made it, and at his commandment it runneth hastily.
So at the Most High's commandment, the sun runneth hastily. It moves. When he says move, it moves. Right? So it's on his command, right? So here's something funny, right? When you deal with beams, right, or rays of light, right? You ever notice the sun at certain days when you look at the clouds, right, and the sun is above the clouds, and it comes out in a shape. You know what they call that? The rays, they call it corona. We're not going to go into that. But they call it corona, right? The rays of light always leads back to the source. So if you see the light's coming down in a triangle formation, that says the sun is sitting right above where you see that light coming from. And if that's the case, it can't be 93 million miles away and then have a triangle right above of light coming down. That is impossible. That's why I mentioned beams. When you deal with fire science, right? In order for the marshals to find the fire, they look for the origin of fire. Light always goes back to its source. So there is a spot in a burned down home that's not burned. And that's where the origin of the fire started, because the light always goes back to the source, and it's in a cone shape. Just like the sun does the same thing, you follow that light is right there. It is not 93 million miles away. It's not going to come 93 million miles, hit one cloud and split. And the rest of the sky is just lit up that way. It doesn't work that way. And the other reason the sky is lit up is because, remember, it's a glass. It's like a molten glass or a mirror, so it's also reflecting light. So this is also how light travels around the earth. Okay, so let's go to, hold on, I got logged out there. Let's go to another one. My brother. We still brothers, right? Not no more? Oh, that's right. I'm gonna have some brothers left after this. Not very many, but I have a few left of this. I have to read this. A remnant. Yeah, right, a remnant, exactly. Okay, so now I'm going into another taboo book just to prove the point about the sun. I'm not going to read the whole book, but about the sun. I'm going to the book of Enoch. Chapter 72, verses 4 through 9. So this is 72 and verse 4. In which the gates also the moon rises and sets, and the conductors of the stars, among those who precede them, 6 at the rising and 6 at the setting of the sun. All these respectively, one after another, are on a level, and numerous windows are on the right and left sides of those gates. Remember when the Most High flooded the earth, he opened the what of heaven? Gates or windows, right? So something is opening, right? So he's opening gates and windows. By chance, what are windows made of?
Glass.
Sea of glass, molten glass, open the windows of heaven. He's not just using words just to use them, right? So we're going to skip that. We're going to go to verse 35 to 37. Verse 35. The sun has completed its beginnings, and a second time goes around from these beginnings. Into that gate it enters for 30 days and sets in the west, in the opposite part. Right? Read 37. At that period, the night is contracted in its length, a fourth part, that is one portion that becomes 11 parts. So this is the time we're in now, where the night is contracted, meaning the nights are shorter, right? So the sun has somewhere to go. And if people don't believe that, remember that's also in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha confirms that with these chambers and these gates that the sun and moon goes into. So this is not far off. So we can precept Enoch with the Apocrypha. These specific verses, not the whole book, these specific verses. So this is how we find bones, right? So we found bones, and now we found meat on that bone, right? So now we're going to deal with another subject, because I'm watching my time. Don't worry, I'm going to get that precept for you in the Apocrypha. Let's deal with level, right? The word level, because again, the source of math and everything else comes from the Most High. Science comes from the Most High, right? He deals with logic, right? So when we're dealing with levels, right? Notice level means what? Level, straight, right? You know, there's a tool, right? What is the name of that tool? My brain is killing me. I mean, it's called a level, but there's another name for it. But right, when they're doing buildings and things, and they're measuring, it's just straight out level?
It's called level.
Man, all right, we'll rock with that then. When they use a level to mark out planes and buildings, right? There's something else besides the level that they use called a plumb, and you said it before.
Plumb line.
You said it before. A spirit level. A spirit level. Do you got the basic level? You got the level of the sea, but there's a spirit level. Where do you think they're getting this idea from of a spirit level? What the true level and measurement is, right? Okay, so a level is an instrument designed to indicate whether a surface is horizontal, level, or vertical plumb, right? So it's to indicate the level of a surface. The Most High, right, Yashaiyah moved upon the surface of the water, right? And then we get into something called sea level, right? So what is sea level? Sea level is the base level for measuring elevation and depth on Earth. Because the ocean is one continuous body of water, its surface tends to seek the same level throughout the Earth. You ever heard that saying, water always finds its level? How's it going to find a level on a ball? Is there a level on a round ball? Can't be, right? It starts to make sense when you talk about the flood, and the Most High flooded the entire earth, because where was the water going? If he has a firmament that stretches from one end to end and foundations, the water can't leave. And it floods the entire earth, if it's in a circle shape. But if it's in a sphere, isn't it just going to pour off? Is he like literally holding his hands like this and making the water go around like it's a Hadouken, right? A ball of fire? Is he really holding the water like that? I don't think so. That's why it's called sea level. So when the water goes out, it levels itself out. It went throughout the entire earth. The water can't go anywhere. He opened the windows of heaven and the surf, and he opened the depths of the earth, the springs for the water to come up. The water's not going anywhere. It's locked there until he returns it from where it's supposed to go, right? So now we know what sea level is, and we know they use a level for building.
Could you repeat that definition of sea level?
Sea level, sure. It's a sea level is the base level for measuring elevation and depth on Earth. Because the ocean is one continuous body of water, its surface tends to seek the same level throughout the world. Sea level is measured in relation to adjacent land. I didn't even read this before, I'm so lucky about that. Sea level is measured in relation to adjacent land, just like the ocean. The elevation of land may rise and fall. Whether the land rises and falls does not change. It changes the height of where the water is, but the water's still level. And when water, if you notice, you pour it, no matter what you pour it on, it's going to seek out and straighten out. If you pour it on a ball, it's going to run off the sides. If you pour it on a plane or flat surface, it levels out. Sea level. Okay, so now let's go into surface. What is a surface? A continuous set of points that has length and breadth. Remember when we spoke about length and breadth before? We were dealing with what? Circles, circuits, and a compass. So a surface is a continuous set of points that has length and breadth, but no thickness. So if you had a circle and a sphere, which one has thickness to it? The sphere. Surface doesn't deal with that. It deals with the surface level, right? You need me to read that again, or you got that? Okay, so I'll continue with that. That's right, set of points that has length and breadth, but no thickness. So when he moved upon the surface of the water, he was moving upon the face. The length and breadth, how wide it is, right? Okay, so now we deal with the word face and surface. In geometry, the term face refers to a flat surface. So when it says the most, and geometry is the study of shapes and also of earth. So when it says the Most High moved upon the surface of the water, according to geometry, it refers to a flat surface with only straight edges. And prisms, as in prisms and pyramids, cube has 6 faces. Curved surfaces, such as those found in cylinders and cones, right? And spheres are not classified as faces. That's in the definition. A sphere is not classified as face. So when he moved across the surface of the water or the face of the ocean, it's not a sphere. According to geometry also, it doesn't make sense, right? So we understand what a surface and a face is now, right? That's why he said he makes it like the beauty of a man, a face, because the face is essentially flat with the lips and nose that protrude out like mountains and ridges and valleys, right? Okay. So what's geometry? Geometry is the shape and relative arrangement of parts of something. The branch of mathematics concerned with properties and relations of points, lines, surfaces, solids, and higher dimensional analogs. I didn't even know what that last portion meant. Let me skip that. Y'all can study that on your own. But dealing with points, lines, and surfaces, you do that with a circle. When they had when you were in math class and you were using a compass, you dealt with points and lines on this surface. It is not a sphere, right? So now, do we have that board? How much time I got?
It's outside.
Okay, it's outside. Is it clean? You think? Okay, it's not clean. All right. You got one down there, you said?
A water down there, they take it.
Oh, yeah, outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right.
Would you be able to grab that board real quick?
Just wipe it
Yeah.
off.
Wait. The water.
Yeah.
See what happens when I mention those books? You guys right now are my remnant. The only friends I got left, this dude just divorced me from being his friend. And I read a precept. It wasn't even like I read the whole book.
Right.
But anyway, so what I'm gonna do now is just like culminate everything we said and show you who else knows the shape of the earth. And you might not have paid attention or known what it was when you were looking at it. But now I'm gonna show you something that people go to secret organizations for years to learn this information, and it was learned no time by the Spirit of the Most High in the Bible. Don't worry about it. You know what? You're right. So, all right. So we don't have that, so I might have to do it by hand. Huh? Oh, they don't have anything to write it on? Okay. No worries. All right, so we're gonna do this the tough way. We're gonna do this by hand, right?
Oh yeah, you got one.
You got one? Oh, all praises.
All praises.
Because y'all's gonna have to watch my drawing. So, I mean, I can draw if I'm by myself and nobody's watching me, or if people watching, my hand just starts going off. So we're gonna get a board and we're gonna illustrate something that secret societies took forever to learn, and by the Spirit of the Most High, we learned it quickly, super fast. And when you see it again, you will never see it the same way again. You'll never see it the same way again. And then you'll start to understand how symbols work and that they reveal truth in symbols, like in movies. Every time you see a movie, right, and they got a map somewhere, it's the earth from above. It's in a circle formation. Even though, what's that guy, that was in The Fly? Steve Gutenberg? Did you see, there was at one point he was doing commercials for apartments, and he was looking down. Why was he looking down the apartments inside a dome? Oh, and they'll tell him where the apartments were. Every time you look at movies, pay attention to what they show you. And what's that movie about with the Egyptians that came out not too long ago? And the Greek gods? Anybody know that movie? It was like 2-3 years old. Oh, damn, okay. Apparently everything is very plain, and you know what, I can't see obvious. So, all right, so Egyptian, what was it, gods? And notice when they were showing the planet, it was a disc. A disc. Notice every time they show the earth or they show the city skyline, they use what's called a fisheye lens. A fisheye lens, kind of like, what's that, like a GoPro? Curves everything. So every time they show you the image, they have to make it curved to match what they said. Why not use a regular camera and just take a picture of the skyline?
But they didn't do that in Avatar.
No.
It was flat.
Exactly. And there's a history of that, of those flat earth references throughout movies, throughout books, and everything else. Remember, the only society that pushed the round earth was the Greeks. Not round. Salaki on that. The Greeks originally said the earth was round, and then later on with Copernicus and Eratosthenes said it was a sphere. It became Jeff Goldblum. Thank you. That's Steve Gutenberg. That's the guy from Police Academy. It became a sphere later on, right? Also, the Hindus believed in a flat earth. The Navajos believed in a flat earth. Actually, the earth by the Hindus, it's a turtle that has a dome on top of it, and that's where the earth is. The Navajos have the same thing, and they say they came from multi-levels down into the earth, right? Just like 7 heavens and all these things. All these societies had this, and somehow we didn't have any knowledge or understanding until Esau came, which shows it's a lie. Right? How are we making on that board? Oh, the water. All right, man, let me see how I'm gonna do this.
And he set up the pillars in the porch of the temple.
And he set up the pillars in the porch of the temple. Go ahead.
And he set up the right pillar and called the name thereof Jason.
So he set up the right pillar and called the name of it Jason. So let's set up a pillar and put a J on it. Call it Jason, right?
And he set up the left pillar and called the name thereof Boaz.
And he set up the left pillar and he called the name of it Boaz. Jachin and Boaz. If you deal with, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let the water. So you deal with Jachin and Boaz. You know what? No. Okay. Something just came to my mind. I'm gonna leave that. Yeah.
Check this one. Yeah.
Check that. Okay.
It's not permanent, right?
No, it's not. It comes off. The water.
See, I'm your brother, right?
Yes. Yes. This ain't permanent. Okay. So, you know what? I'm not even gonna worry about those letters on there because we're gonna leave that out. So Jachin and Boaz, right? Right? Masons use those names a lot. Go ahead. All right. So that's it. Jachin and Boaz, right? So Boaz means Jachin means he will establish, and Boaz means fleetness or swift, right? So now, let's go to Genesis, right? Chapter 1 and verse 6.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 6.
Real quick, just information so you guys know. Do you know what the top portion of pillars are, where you see the designs? Those are called chapiters. Chapiter. They're like chapter with an I in between, chapiter. That's just information for you to have. So you're going to see the designs on the top of the corners. It's called a chapiter, right? Okay, so Genesis chapter 1 and verse 6. Yes.
And the Most High said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the water.
So let there be a firmament in the midst of the water. So we said the Hebrew word for firmament is rakayah, right? Which means visible arc, right? So pay attention. So there's a visible arc, right? Let's go to verse 16.
verse 16. And the Most High made two great lights. The greater light to rule the day,
Right, which is the sun,
and the lesser light to rule the night.
and a lesser light to rule the night, which is the moon. Go ahead.
He made the stars also.
So we have the sun, and we have the moon. Let's make it further away. Let's put an S, let's put an M there, and we have stars, right? Because we said that these were in the firmament, right? And we have clouds, right? We have clouds, right? Go ahead. Is there anything more to that?
Verse 17.
What's 17? Go ahead.
And the Most High set them in the firmaments of heaven.
Right, so he set the water. So he set them in the firmament of heaven, right? So we have Jachin and Boaz, right? We have the firmament of heaven. We have the sun and moon inside heaven, right? So now we're gonna jump a little bit because you may have seen this before. Some of you might not recognize this is permanent. This is permanent. So we gotta get you in this front. That's all right. Oh, okay, good. But for now, we're gonna skip. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4, right? 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4. Okay, so you said hand sanitizer. All right. No worries. We'll go over it with the one that erases. So far, does the outline look familiar to anybody? It looks familiar to someone, right? Okay. So 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 4. So just a question. Where did we say the Most High resides? Above the firmament, right? So this is where the Most High is, right? Okay, 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4.
Go ahead.
In whom the powers of this world.
No. Read that as it is.
In whom the God of this world.
In whom the God of this world. Where is the world as it deals with the firmament? Inside, right? The God of this world. Where's the Most High? So what God is he talking about? Satan. What's the symbol that they use everywhere for Satan? Not just that. There's one symbol, right? Because the Most High is what? All-seeing. So what symbol do they use for Satan? All-seeing eye. And the God of this world means he is not out here, he is here. So you start to see this in that shape, in that design also. The God of this world. He's high above you, but he does not rule. Understand? Go ahead.
Have blinded the minds of them which believe not.
Right. So this is also in a dollar bill called the Eye of Providence. Right? This is the Eye of Providence. Providence comes from what word? Listen to the word providence. What word is in there? Provide. To provide. Who provides for us? So this God is the eye of providence to this world. He provides for this world. You understand how that works? So this is the God that they're talking about. This God is within the firmament. He rules this world. Right? So now, let's go to, is it more familiar to people now? Have you seen this before? Now there's one secret, right? There's a school, right, that most of these people that run a country go to, right? It was Bush, it was, what was that guy that was running against him? Bush Jr.? Weird dude. He married the ketchup chick, or one of them did. He's an Edomite and his name doesn't matter. Right? So they went to school, right? And the school, and there was a club in the school, there's 8 of them actually. There's a Scroll and Key, there's the Skull and Bones, there's all these elite schools and elite clubs, right? So the Skull and Bones, does anyone know the number to Skull and Bones? No. 3 what? 322 is the number to Skull and Bones. Go to Genesis chapter 3 verse 22. Because I'm going to show you the other part of this that you see in a lot of rap videos and everything else. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 22. Don't read it yet. Right? So let's just make some of these dark. Right? Like a checkerboard. Right? It doesn't have to be exact, but you get the idea. Right? So the 2 basic colors we see are what? Black and white. The struggle on this earth right now is what? Black and white. The struggle in the heavens is light and dark, right? Genesis chapter 3, verse 22.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 3 verse 22. And the Most High Power said, Behold, the man is become as one of us.
The man has become as one of us, knowing what?
To know good and evil.
Light and dark. Black and white. Skull and Bones 3:22, Genesis 3:22. That means they have acquired knowledge and to become like gods, or to become like this God that rules this world. Right? Go ahead.
And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life,
Right?
and eat and live forever.
Right. So the Most High put the kibosh on that. That you are not going to gain that much knowledge when you become or try to be like me. So this is the Skull and Bones 3:22. And 3:22 in Greece, there was a guy, what was his name? Something with a D. He was a philosopher. He died, and they tried to make it like his. This is what 3:22 actually is. Light and dark, because they consider themselves gods over all of us, right? This is Jachin and Boaz, the pillars. This is the firmament. This is the eye of providence, the God of this world in 2 Corinthians 4:4. This is where the Most High resides. This is the earth, according to Masons. So the Masons have a firmament, and they have pillars, like the Most High said the earth has. And they have the checkerboard, which is its flat surface. Light and dark and evil.
Checkers.
Right, like checkers. So this, when you see this symbol, sometimes Washington is in it, sometimes a square and compass is in it, because that's how you measure the earth, right? That's why they always have that symbol. That's also as above, so below, right? And in the prayer of the Most High, right, we say, as it is in heaven, on earth. So this is their bastard form of that. As above, so below. So this is what they're actually showing in that symbol, that this is how the earth is. They know the earth is this way. That's why they put their God here. Because they know the description of the earth. Where did I learn this from? The Bible. I didn't become a Mason. I just read the Bible. The Most High put the Spirit there and said, do you know what you're looking at? And I was like, yes, I do. And then I wrote the following verses. And then you can see Jachin and Boaz. You'll always hear that. You'll see light and dark. 3:22. You'll see as above, so below, like the prayer is. You see the eye of providence, the God of this world. Sun, moon, stars inside the firmament. The Most High resides outside. This is what the Masons are hiding. This is supposed to be a secret. And it's in the Bible. And it's in the Bible. So if they were truly serving God, they would have known this a long time ago and wouldn't have to go through all of those things to get to where they are. They could have just served the Most High and they'd have got this for free.
Right.
Right? So on that note, I'm going to say shalom.
Shalom.